So it's official. We have a new 8th Hokage. Shikamaru has been elected as the 8th Hokage to lead Konoha in probably Konoha's most unsure and darkest period ever. And Shikamaru being elected as the 8th Hokage is crazy for a ton of reasons. One, Shikamaru being the 8th Hokage kind of flies in the face of everything we know about a Hokage election. He's the only Hokage ever to not be trained by or directly related to a previous Hokage, and he's the first ever Hokage to have a hidden technique. I mean, the Sarutobis are unusually talented in fire release, but they don't have like a hidden fire release. Well, I guess both Asuma and Konohamaru do use burning ash jutsu. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that last point. By the way, hidden jutsu, for those of you who don't know, are clan specific or area specific jutsus. So like shadow paralysis jutsu is the hidden technique of the Nara clan. But Shikamaru being elected as the 8th Hokage caught a lot of people by surprise. And while some people were excited to see Shikamaru elected as 8th Hokage, a lot of people weren't, which has led a lot of people to ask the question, does Shikamaru deserve to be the 8th Hokage? See, the reason that we're talking about this today is because somebody emailed me and said, hey, Six, who's another anime YouTuber, posted about how Shikamaru is going to be a terrible Hokage because he's not strong enough and not self-sacrificing enough. Well, I went and I watched Six's video, and it wasn't about either of those things. In fact, Six went on to say that Shikamaru is probably the best of a bad bunch and the most logical choice for the 8th Hokage. And I think Six did a really good job of articulating this point, because when it really boils down to it, there isn't a whole lot of great choices in Konoha right now. He's absolutely correct about that. However, where I diverge a little bit from Six's thought process is that Shikamaru is the best out of said bad bunch. Because I would argue that Shikamaru is not only not the best out of the bad bunch, but not even top 2. In fact, I would argue that during the time skip, Shikamaru was the 3rd best option for 8th Hokage. But that's not even really what I want to focus on today. I mean, today I do want to talk about Shikamaru's worthiness as the 8th Hokage, what he brings to the table, what I believe others bring to the table more than him, and what I believe Shikamaru's role should have been post-time skip. But on top of all that, today I'd also like to talk about the direction in which I believe Shikamaru is going to be taking the village. And ironically, in kind of a full circle moment, if Shikamaru takes the village in the way that I believe he's going to take the village, how he might have actually been the best out of the bad bunch. See, obviously with the time skip just happening, we don't have a huge amount of information about what's happening in the post-time skip world of Boruto. But we do have 2 current absolutes. Shikamaru is the 8th Hokage, and Konoha gets destroyed. So today we're gonna try to accomplish talking about how Shikamaru probably wasn't the most worthy person to be elected as the 8th Hokage, speculate on what his path as the 8th Hokage would lead him to, and then finish the video talking about how all of that leads to the destruction of Konoha. I'd once again like to say that this video is largely inspired based off an idea that Six created. So make sure you guys check out his video as well. It's just me and his view on the future of Konoha is slightly different, and thus I believe that with the prompt that he created, I could make my own kind of fun original video. But his video is also very good. Moving forward, before we get theorizing or speculating or disagreeing with anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you love the idea of me theorizing, speculating, or disagreeing with any of your anime hot takes, then you're gonna love my other channel, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking about Naruto and Boruto, I talk all other anime. And if you just love the idea of me talking about anime, you're gonna love my anime podcast, Who Talk is Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. So whether or not you like it, Konoha has its 8th Hokage. Shikamaru Nara now has his face engraved on the stone cliffs of Konoha. And considering the fact that Shikamaru has been a fan favorite character for almost the entirety of his existence in Naruto, a lot of people should be excited about this, right? Well, yes, absolutely. And a lot of people are excited about Shikamaru being the 8th Hokage. To an equal to possibly more than equal amount of people are slightly peeved about it. Because while Shikamaru was a fan favorite character in Naruto, he's not a fan favorite character in Boruto. See, Shikamaru's embraced his role as Hokage's aide in Boruto to a T. And that is to say to a T if you believe that Tobirama set the precedent for what a Hokage's aide should be like. And considering the ever-present amount of similarities between Hashirama and Naruto, you would hope that Shikamaru would be as close to Tobirama as a Shadow Hokage as possible. Or not even so much as a Shadow Hokage, but more as an aide to the Hokage. And as an aide to the Hokage, while Shikamaru was cold, calculating, and practical, he was very efficient, much in a similar capacity to Tobirama. See, the problem with people like Hashirama or Naruto becoming Hokage is that the childish ideology that they live with, because they're so powerful that they can force their ideology on anybody, doesn't necessarily always work within the confines of politics. The hey, can we all stop fighting, I want us all to be friends ideology doesn't work when money and lives are at stake. Which is why, even though Hashirama was the most powerful person in the village at Konoha's founding, he may not have actually been the best choice for Hokage, as without Tobirama by his side, Hashirama would have made multiple moves as Hokage that would have been detrimental to Konoha's growth. One, before Hashirama even became Hokage, he wanted Madara to become Hokage, something that down the line probably would have led to an all-out war between the Senju and the Uchiha all over again. But then again, maybe not. Maybe if Madara was elected as Hokage, the Uchiha and the Senju would have meshed and there never would have been an Uchiha massacre. However, there definitely would have been another kind of massacre, and that would have been Madara kicking down the doors of every other ninja village and slaughtering them to make sure that they understood that they existed beneath him. I mean, he already did it without being Hokage, but we were fortunate enough to only have him kick Mu and Inoki's ass. Now imagine if he was actually the leader of Konoha and had the combined forces of the Uchiha and the Senju behind him when he went on that little field trip to the Hidden Stone. Let's just say we wouldn't be having 5 Kage summits. We'd be having 1 Kage summits. And then after Hashirama became the Hokage, Tobirama was instrumental in making sure that Hashirama didn't hand out 8 of the tailed beasts, making sure that he and Konoha were paid. Money that Konoha would use to build its foundations and recover from the first, second, and third Great Shinobi World Wars. And Shikamaru fills a very similar capacity for Naruto, because while Naruto was the strongest person in the village, bar none, that doesn't mean he was the smartest person in the village. And a smile and a wave and a why can't we all be friends doesn't answer every political situation. And thus Shikamaru unfortunately had to fill the role of a dark, dreary, realistic aide to counterbalance Naruto's sunshine and love approach. And genuinely, in no part of Naruto media is this better depicted than in Shikamaru Shinden, which is Shikamaru's second light novel. As in this light novel, the Stone Daimyo is demanding that we break from the Shinobi Alliance, we being Iwa, as the Stone Daimyo believed that ninjas lived for war and combat, which is a sentimentality that's been passed down through the Stone Village for as long as it's existed. Because this, the Stone Daimyo is all but forcing Koretsuchi's hand to break out of the Shinobi Union. Shinobi Union is what the Shinobi Alliance became after the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, and technically Shikamaru's in charge of it. But Koretsuchi doesn't tell any of the other Kage that her daimyo is trying to force her to leave the Shinobi Union. Instead, Koretsuchi launches an offensive campaign against Konoha, as technically the time after the Fourth Great Shinobi World War is supposed to be a demilitarization time, which is why in the last, when it was discovered that the Hidden Cloud was creating a chakra cannon that could destroy the moon, was kind of a big deal. But the Hidden Cloud aren't the only people not demilitarizing, as Konoha is just as guilty. However, Konoha isn't working on a giant chakra cannon to wipe out the moon. Konoha is kind of experiencing a tech boom, as Konoha has become the center of shinobi-ware research, with things like the gauntlet that's able to produce any jutsu becoming more and more commonplace in Konoha. And while technically the ideology floating around things like the shinobi gauntlet is that hard work will always outdo scientific advancement, quite frankly, that's not the case. Because sure, for people like Boruto and Naruto, their power can surpass anything that the Shinobi Gauntlet will ever be able to emulate. Boruto and Naruto are not every ninja, and thus if every single shinobi within Konoha could be equipped with the Shinobi Gauntlet, that would give them access to incredibly powerful ninjutsu they wouldn't have access to otherwise. Konoha would take another massive step forward in terms of strength that would outclass them from the rest of the shinobi villages. And thus, the way that Koretsuchi is kind of trying to force everybody else's hand to start a war is that she's demanding that Konoha share all information that they have about shinobi-ware products and basically any weapon that would advance their warfare potential. Basically, Koretsuchi is saying that any advancements that Konoha has made, we want access to. And since we're all friends here, that shouldn't be a problem, right? And Chojuro actually agrees with this sentimentality, which places not only the Hidden Stone, but also the Hidden Mist at odds with Konoha. And this moment of both Koretsuchi and Chojuro demanding information from Konoha brings forward a very important moment in the scope of this entire novel. But we'll talk about that in a second. See, because the entire purpose of this novel is to show off how talented Shikamaru is as a political mastermind, because the entire light novel is Shikamaru creating larger and larger summits until eventually he can get Naruto in front of every single village leader, be they small villages, major villages, daimyos, in a continent-wide summit where Naruto can not only say, I don't want war, but we're also going to share all the information that we have with you guys. And while in premise that seems incredibly simple, the political elbow grease that Shikamaru has to use to get Naruto on this continent-wide stage is rather impressive. Not to mention, Shikamaru fully understands and acknowledges that once Naruto is able to talk to people, he will captivate them and sway them to his side. Thus, the simple act of trying to get Naruto on a stage in front of every single nation's leader is genius, if only for the acknowledgement and understanding that Naruto Naruto should be able to sway anybody he talks to. So here I am, establishing the fact that Shikamaru is a political genius, which is technically in the blood of the Nara. They're either politicians or doctors, and thus Shikamaru is very much living up to his full potential. So why, if Shikamaru is not only a tactical but also political genius, is he not a good choice for the 8th Hokage? Well, because the Hokage is not supposed to be the smartest person in the village. The Hokage, according to Hiruzen in the early chapters of Naruto, is supposed to be the strongest person in the village. And now, well, obviously strength can be manifested in a myriad of different ways, and obviously Shikamaru's strength is very much tied into his over 200 IQ, while being intelligent might have been enough to keep Shikamaru relevant in the grand power scale of Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. Not only is being intelligent not enough to keep him relevant in Boruto, but also he's gotten substantially weaker since the war. See, actually I want to head back to that moment where I talked about how things got tense between all 5 Kage. That is to say, the moment when Chojuro agreed with Korodsuchi and said that Konoha needs to divulge all its secrets. See, the reason that this moment is important, especially as it pertains to Shikamaru, is because in response to Korodsuchi and Chojuro threatening war against Konoha, Shikamaru uses shadow paralysis on all 5 Kage simultaneously. And he tells Chojuro and Korodsuchi that if they want to go forward with a war against Konoha, he'll kill them right here and now. Now, just with that as context, you would say,
wow, Shikamaru was stronger than all 5 of the Kage combined.
To be able to bind Darui, Chojuro, Korodsuchi, Gaara, and Naruto simultaneously, just how powerful has Shikamaru gotten? However, there's context, and that context is not good for Shikamaru. See, the light novel tells us that with the aid of Kurama, Naruto would be able to break out of the shadow paralysis pretty much whenever he wanted. And he actually does do that in a second. Now, the reason that Naruto breaks out of the shadow paralysis is because Gaara is about to attack Shikamaru with his sand. And upon identifying the fact that Gaara is going to be the one to discipline his Hokage's assistant, Naruto breaks out of the shadow paralysis and grabs Shikamaru and apologizes to all the other Kage. But okay, Naruto could break out of it, that makes sense. And Gaara could still attack Shikamaru with his sand. It could probably do a lot more when you consider the fact that Gaara would go easy on him, considering the fact that they are related by law.
Hey Tamari, sorry, I killed your husband. He was being cranky.
Not exactly something that our new version of Gaara would probably do. But still, Shikamaru was able to hold Darui, Chojuro, and Korodsuchi. That's crazy, especially when you consider the fact that the 3 of them battled against Kinshiki. So surely Shikamaru must be at least Kinshiki level, right? Wrong. Well, at least probably wrong. See, Darui is neutral on the matter because Konoha militarizing actually just matches the actions of the Cloud. So for him to get vocal about demanding that Konoha share the secrets that they're compiling would be kind of hypocritical. And thus, when it really comes down to it, the only 2 people that Shikamaru was actually using shadow paralysis on in any meaningful capacity would be Chojuro and Korodsuchi, who, outside of being the 2 weakest Hokage in the history of the Kage that we know of, also might have just been being polite. What do I mean by that? Well, a couple of pages later, Shikamaru was walking home from work, and in a fit of frustration, he uses his shadow paralysis on a tree and then uses shadow strangle on said tree. And while the tree creaks and moans as it's being crushed, Shikamaru can't destroy the tree. In fact, Shikamaru can't even splinter the tree, which means that through the power of his shadow strangle, Shikamaru isn't even tree level, which makes Shikamaru realize how rusty he's gotten, implying that obviously at one point or another Shikamaru was able to snap trees in half with his shadow strangle. And upon realizing that he can't even destroy a tree with his shadow strangle, Shikamaru shudders at the idea that he was threatening to choke not only 1 Kage, but 2. Because let me tell you right now, Chojuro and Korodsuchi are far above tree level. And thus Shikamaru's threats to kill Chojuro and Korodsuchi were just that, threats. Shikamaru stood next to no chance against any of the Kage, let alone all of them. Sure, hypothetically, he might have been able to paralyze 3 of the Hokage for a couple of minutes. But after that, what? Shikamaru was by far and away the weakest person in that room. And that is now your 8th Hokage, making Shikamaru more likely than not the first ever Hokage to not be the strongest of all the Kage. And to make it worse than that, not only is he not the strongest, but he's the weakest of all of the Kage. And more likely than not, the weakest Kage ever. Because here's the thing, that was Shikamaru during the Mujina Bandits arc, which is about 3.5 years ago comparatively to where we are in the Boruto timeline now. And if you thought Shikamaru as the Hokage's aide was rusty and overworked, we can't even begin to comprehend the amount of work that Shikamaru has had to do as Hokage. Meaning in those 3.5 years, Shikamaru is either as strong as he was or weaker. There was no time skip training arc for Shikamaru, meaning we have a sub-tree level Hokage. And while that's probably kind of a cruel lowball, because when he tried to shadow strangle that tree, he was tired and stressed, I'd argue there's very few moments in Shikamaru's life as the 8th Hokage when he is not tired and stressed. So do I believe that Shikamaru was the best option for 8th Hokage? No. If you are highballing Shikamaru, and I mean highballing Shikamaru, he is the 6th most powerful person in the village. Because I'll tell you right now, definitively, Ada, Daemon, Kawaki, Kakashi, and Sakura are stronger than him. But I would very easily argue Mitsuki, Sarada, Himawari, Soon, Rock Lee, Choji, Sai, and a couple of other high-level Jonin are more powerful than their current Hokage. Because here's the thing, in Naruto and Naruto Shippuden, Shikamaru was a soldier. Because this, he was not only honing his battle intellect, but also his shadow possession jutsu and all other battle prowess. Every single day it was Shikamaru's goal to become a better soldier. However, with the introduction of the 4th Great Shinobi World War, Shikamaru began to take a step back. I mean, while obviously he has incredible battles like his battle against Asuma that prove that he is a high-level Jonin, the 4th Great Shinobi World War makes it clear to Shikamaru that his true talent lies in strategizing for large groups of people, which is why after his father Shukaku's death, he becomes the pseudo-general of the Shinobi Alliance. And after the conclusion of the 4th Great Shinobi World War, he becomes the leader of the Shinobi Union, and why he becomes the Hokage's aide to Naruto. Slowly but surely, time has taken Shikamaru more and more off the battlefield. But the unfortunate reality is that while Shikamaru was losing his edge, everyone around him was also getting massively more strong, and Shikamaru's kit became absolutely irrelevant. See, not only does Shikamaru not have enough chakra or strength to use his shadow possession jutsu on anybody important, but his shadow possession jutsu can be absorbed by Rinnegan or karma markings, meaning if he wants to use it against Boruto or Kawaki or any Otsutsuki, he can't. In fact, him trying to use his shadow paralysis jutsu against Momoshiki allowed Momoshiki to use it against all of the Kage. On the battlefields, no matter how you look at it, Shikamaru is now a hindrance. And if the Hokage is supposed to be the strongest person in the village, he's the wrong choice. Now, whether or not you believe he's stronger than Konohamaru, I'll leave that up to you. But I believe it is undeniable based on what we've seen for both Sakura and Kakashi and not only Boruto, but their respective light novels in the blank periods or during Boruto's timeline, that Sarada and Kakashi are stronger than Shikamaru, and I don't think it's close. See, well, obviously the on-screen manga canon feats we have from Kakashi in Boruto's timeline are limited. We have so many feats from Kakashi in Boruto's timeline from his light novels. Now, obviously we have things like Kakashi's first light novel, which is all about him struggling to accept that he's the new Hokage after the 4th Great Shinobi World War, which focuses not only on him accepting the role, but also trying to recreate Chidori, which then eventually leads him to the creation of Purple Lightning, which is said to be the completed version of Chidori and is based off Madara's Purple Lightning in the war. And in that light novel, it's acknowledged that Purple Lightning is stronger than Chidori, which leads us to our first big upgrade for Kakashi post 4th Great Shinobi World War. But the first on-screen visualization we have of how strong Purple Lightning is and how strong Hokage and post-Hokage Kakashi is from the early days of Boruto. See, a lot of people believe that the first 40 or so episodes of Boruto are anime canon. That is to say, all of the episodes that lead up to the Chunin exam, which we were given during Boruto's movie. So things like Shin Uchiha's arc, Nue's arc, or when they go to the Hidden Mist Village and battle against the new 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. And while technically, to a certain degree, these being called anime canon isn't inaccurate, everything between episode 1 of Boruto and when the Chunin exams happens is a different kind of canon that's not anime canon. That's because everything that happens between episode 1 of Boruto and the Chunin exams actually comes from light novels, a set of 5 of them. And these 5 novels represent the 5 Boruto light novels, released between May of 2017 and January of 2018. And thus, since light novels are fully canon and supported by Masashi Kishimoto, as he co-writes every single one, the events that happen within the capacity of these 5 light novels are all as canon as manga, unless of course they blatantly contradict what's seen in the manga. And the reason that I'm talking about these light novels in these early episodes of Boruto is because in the 3rd novel, which is Those Who Eliminate the Night of Shinobi, we're not only introduced to Sumire, but also Nue, a pseudo-tailed beast that feeds off the dark emotions of everybody around it. Now, Nue is very actively compared to a tailed beast in terms of destructive capability. And what do we see Kakashi do? Straight up jump it. Kakashi not only speed blitzes Nue, but also cuts off its tail. He then surrounds Nue with a town-sized mud wall barrier that makes it so Nue won't be able to make it to the village to cause any destruction. But Kakashi's novel feats don't end there. Ignoring the fact entirely that Kakashi went toe-to-toe with Kashin Koji, who was able to kill a 10% Jigen, Kakashi in his second light novel goes to a land by the name of the Land of Ridaku, where he's not only able to evaporate all of the water created by a ninja tool created by Hagoromo that allows for an infinite amount of water to be spewed out of it to make sure that the Land of Ridaku would never run out of water. That is to say, in simpler terms, Kakashi uses a Phoenix Fire Jutsu so strong that it's able to nullify an infinite water source from a ninja tool created by the Sage of Six Paths, but also manages to surround an entire town with a mud wall that lasts 12 hours long. But mind you, this isn't any regular mud wall. It's a quartz mud wall, which is said to be much more chakra exhaustive than a regular mud wall, because the quartz mud wall isn't affected by lightning release, which is the natural weakness of earth release, and thus Kakashi maintained a town-size advanced mud wall for 12 hours. And this is due, in fact, to the fact that he no longer has the Sharingan, which is actually stated to have made him stronger, as he now no longer has his massive amount of chakra sapped through the usage of the Sharingan that didn't belong to him. In fact, the light novel goes on to state that Kakashi is stronger than he was in the War Arc now, minus DMS, obviously. But one Sharingan Kakashi went toe-to-toe with one Rinnegan, one Sharingan Obito. The destructive force of Obito sinking his Kamui to Kakashi's as Kakashi was trying to Kamui away the Ten Tails head created an event that could only be compared to the cataclysm that the Ten Tails was able to create when it was terraforming the earth, as things like thunderstorms and tornadoes spawned out of nowhere. And while obviously at least 50% of that event can be tied to Obito, the fact that at least 50% of that event can be tied to a Kakashi that is said to be weaker than the Kakashi that we're seeing in Boruto's timeline is crazy. So the genuine question we have to ask here is, do we believe that a Kakashi that's stronger than he was in the War Arc, but not as strong as DMS, is weaker than Shikamaru? I'd have to say no. Not to mention that Kakashi has an equal amount of experience in the Hokage's office as Shikamaru. Not to mention that there's also a precedent for a previous Hokage stepping up when a preternaturally talented, young, blonde-haired Hokage just dies. So why didn't Kakashi step up? Well, it's most likely tied to the fact that Kakashi is probably off somewhere else doing something else. Or because he straight up said no because he wanted the job somehow less than Shikamaru. But even if Kakashi did say no, there were people who were more valid candidates than Shikamaru solely based off strength, as Sakura is also undoubtedly more powerful than Shikamaru. Outside of being able to go toe-to-toe with the likes of Shin Uchiha, who was able to get a drop on not only Sasuke, but also Naruto, we've also seen Sakura in light novels like Sasuke Retsudan go toe-to-toe with Edo Tensei dinosaurs, which is ridiculous, but it's also slightly impressive. On top of this, in Sakura's one and only light novel, which feels disrespectful, we see her go toe-to-toe against several Anbu members who have taken a drug that gives them a pseudo-Jinchuriki cloak. With the power of this version 2 Jinchuriki cloak, these Anbu members are able to pull off tailed beast bombs. And while it says that the power of these tailed beast bombs pale in comparison to anything that Naruto or other perfect Jinchuriki would be able to pull off, it's still tailed beast bombs. And it's still more than Shikamaru could manage. Between being able to summon Lady Katsuyo, the strength of 100 seal, possibly the greatest chakra control in Naruto history, and the ability to activate mitotic regeneration and save herself from death over 100 times, while also canonically having the highest level of chakra-assisted strength in all of Naruto, and having a kid almost entirely reliant on taijutsu, not only is Sakura much stronger than Shikamaru, but she also stands a much better chance against people like Karma Mark wielders or Otsutsuki, as her durability, stamina, regeneration, and kit make her the perfect match for somebody who's able to absorb ninjutsu. Not to mention, if any of the Karma Mark wielders or Otsutsuki are genjutsu specialists, Sakura is immune to genjutsu. So when it comes down to pure protectors of Konoha, Shikamaru was by far and away not the best choice. And considering the fact that the Hokage is supposed to be the strongest person in the village, and therefore, i.e. the protector of the village, and this one's kind of an unspoken rule, but also the strongest out of all the Kage, Shikamaru should definitely not be the 8th Hokage. But this doesn't mean that he was a terrible choice. See, well, I believe that Shikamaru could have functioned probably at a higher level as a tactician and politician from the side. That is to say, if he continued working as a Hokage's aide for either Sakura or Kakashi, having a tactical and political genius as Hokage isn't the worst thing of all time. Because in the same capacity that Shikamaru could have been a tactician from the side, Kakashi and Sakura can still go fight for Konoha. It's just now Shikamaru will be telling them when and where they need to battle. But the only problem with this is that Shikamaru fell prey to Ada's brainwashing, and thus we have somebody in charge who's essentially Ada's puppet. That is to say that since Ada's charm works on Shikamaru, basically anything she wants goes. And I have no doubt in my mind that Kawaki will use that to get what he wants. Now I know what you're gonna say. Sakura and Kakashi would also probably fall prey to this. And well, yes, more likely than not, they probably would. Let's remember that Kakashi at one point had Sage of Six Paths chakra, as Kakashi was given Obito's Sage of Six Paths chakra that allowed him to manifest the DMS mode. And while this has not been confirmed, this is a theory of mine, it appears as though having Sage of Six Paths chakra, or having chakra that ties back to the Otsutsuki, actually allows you to battle against the brainwashing of omnipotence, as the only two people that we've seen outside of those who are in love with Boruto or who are full-blooded Otsutsukis that have been able to break out of the brainwashing have been Sasuke and Himawari. Now, Sasuke breaking out of omnipotence could be tied to the fact that omnipotence takes a while to fully set in, and basically the second that omnipotence was fired off, Sarada was begging with Sasuke, and that allowed him to break out of the memories. But it also could technically be tied to the fact that Sasuke was given Sage of Six Paths chakra by Hagoromo, which would give Sasuke an edge against Otsutsuki abilities. And this is slightly corroborated by the fact that Himawari doubts the memories that Boruto is evil and killed her parents, since Himawari probably has Kaguya's chakra running through her if we abide by the theory that Hinata and Naruto combined Hagoromo and Hamura's chakra in their children. But with Himawari, this could also be tied into the fact that she loves Boruto, which was enough to make Sarada and Sumire not affected by omnipotence. And then, in the case of Sakura, she is immune to genjutsu. And while Kishimoto and Ikimoto have completely forgotten about her character, there's a possibility with a level of chakra control like hers that her brain can't be brainwashed, as one could argue that omnipotence in the way that it manifested for Kawaki's wish was just worldwide genjutsu. And while both Sakura and Kakashi are more likely than not affected by Ada's charm, it's just a cherry on top of why they might have been better choices. So how are we going to build to the fact that Shikamaru might have actually been a good choice for the 8th Hokage? Well, for that, we have to take the scope of Konoha as it currently stands into play. See, like we already talked about in Shikamaru's light novel, Konoha is industrializing. Whether that be through the medium of shinobi wear or letting cyborgs into their doors, Konoha has become the epicenter of warfare advancement. Konoha now has a positive and symbiotic relationship with Amado, Daemon, and Ada. As Shikamaru tells us in Chapter 1 of Two Blue Vortex that Konoha's been using Ada's Senrigan to confirm intel, meaning Ada is working openly with Konoha's leadership and they're trusting her. Not to mention that Amado is living somewhat freely within Konoha's walls. And the same could be said about Orochimaru, all the while things like shinobi-wear upgrades are being made every single day. And while the Shinobi Gauntlet seems like an incredible scientific advancement, even that pales in comparison to what Amado is doing. And the reason that I believe that Shikamaru actually could be the correct choice for the 8th Hokage isn't because of his natural ninjutsu ability, but it's more to do with the fact that his genius in combination with the recent scientific advancements in shinobi wear could actually make him a very dangerous threat. See, while Shikamaru has taken a massive step backwards in terms of his ninjutsu and taijutsu prowess, his intellect is still sharp as a razor. So there's a possibility that Shikamaru could make up for his lack of ninjutsu and taijutsu prowess with scientific advancements. I mean, we saw that Ao, with the power of a ninjutsu minigun, was able to hold down the entirety of Team 7. And while technically in the end Ao loses, between his minigun and his electricity drones, he was dangerous. Now imagine you applied that level of shinobi wear to Shikamaru's intellect. The amount of traps and hard counters he could figure out while he clasped his two hands together like this for any enemy would be crazy. And honestly, I believe with the upgrading of Konoha's military might and Shikamaru now taking a step in the leadership direction, he should be working towards this goal. In essence, what I'm trying to say here is that there's a possibility that Shikamaru embraces a somewhat Batman-esque role within Konoha, where he uses his intellect and cutting-edge warfare technology to remain as relevant as possible in the grand power scheme. And genuinely, I don't believe there's a better person to bring Konoha into the future than Shikamaru, as Shikamaru is cold, calculating, and unbiased, while also willing to do whatever is necessary to make Konoha as strong and as secure as possible, even if that meant killing Koretsuchi and Chojuro. So is Shikamaru the strongest person in the village? Not by a long shot, but is there a world in which he closes the gap between him and Kakashi and Sakura? Maybe. Is it a bit fantastical and sci-fi-esque? Yes, but if you knew anything about Masashi Kishimoto, you'll know that that's all he wants to write. The reason that Kishimoto left Naruto after the conclusion of Shippuden is because he wanted to write another manga known as Samurai 8, which is a samurai sci-fi story. And that's why Boruto has seen such a modernization. It's because Kishimoto wants a modern Naruto universe, so he can write in sci-fi elements. So Iron Man Shikamaru loading? Maybe. But what do I know? I said Kakashi was going to be the Hokage. What do you guys think? Do you believe that Shikamaru deserved the role? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Just one time, I want to hear Shikamaru say, "You've activated my trap card."